magic and explore the most. Stories full of wonder, fantastical delights. Open your eyes and see the parade come to life. Sansy's parade, Sansy's parade. Join the parade, Sansy's parade, parade. Sansy's parade, Sansy's parade. Join the parade, Sansy's parade.
Chapter 6. You stared at the coffee maker, and ran a hand over your face, trying to blink the tiredness away. You hadn't really been sleeping lately, due to late work hours and college. It was hard, you thought, but you could manage. You always did. You never really enjoyed living, you realized, watching the hot brown-black liquid drip into the coffee pot. You had always survived, clawing your way through life, scrapping to get by and never really getting anything good out of life, except scraps of good books you'd read, movies you'd seen, sunrises and flowers. You couldn't find happiness in money or artificial beauty like Frisk did. You wished you could, you really did. But how could you? How could you when you had lived so many lives and been through so many struggles? You hated being mature sometimes, and knowing things. It was like a double-edged sword almost, because of how isolating it was. Frisk, your thought, Frisk who wore makeup and danced and played. You could tell she was happy, through and through, but you could also tell her happiness wasn't true happiness, but it was still happiness, in a way. Geez, you really did think too much. Frisk groaned, and fell off the couch. Or you wondered what it would be like to be her, to only think when necessary, to not be so passionate, to be kind of dim-witted and street-smart. Okay, wow, that was. Jesus, that was mean. But it was also true. Frisk was smart in the things that mattered. She knew how people worked, knew how to harvest them for her advantage. She knew how to slick through the streets on feet as quick as lightning. You were the opposite. You were awkward, and even though you'd had a tough life, you didn't know a thing about the real world. You knew how to observe, to catch on, to learn slowly, and think. Frisk was witty, sneaky, to put it simply, while you were smart, wise. To be honest, Frisk probably thought you were an idiot. Actually, you knew she did. She had told you P61 countless times. Where the hell am I? She yelled. You're at my house, Frisk. How'd I get here? Your friend, the skeleton guy, he brought you here. She sucked her teeth. That son of a bitch? That asshole? He brought me here? Yes. I figured he would have dumped my ass on the street, like he did the last time. She reached into her bra and pulled out her phone, put a hand into her purple fur coat, where she pulled out a pack of cigarettes. She took one out and lit it. Even though you hated the smell, it reminding you of always going to school and having your shit smell of cigarettes, you let her slide. She took a puff, the smoke curling like a gray hand. I should probably call and thank huh? That would be the common courtesy. You muttered, grabbing a mug. Pouring yourself a cup, you took a long swig. Maybe later. All right. You got another mug out, and poured some for Frisk, and put it on the bar. I need to study, so please don't bother me, unless the world is ending, or Jesus has risen from the dead, or I don't know. Something important happens. You said, walking to your bedroom and closing the door, and sat at your desk. You put a hand to your head and leaned over the literature textbook, and sighed. God, this English degree better be worth it. That's right, even though you were a good singer, you weren't so passionate about it. You were passionate about other things, like words and stories. Books had helped you so much throughout your life. They were parents when your real parents couldn't be. You remembered your parents, two drug addicts always high. Oh sure, they'd have their bouts of sobriety, but they'd always go back to their old ways. They died by the time you went into your senior year of high school though. And You knew this was cruel, but a part of you was glad they were dead, that they died high and on their way to heaven, when the old building they squatted in was destroyed by a wrecking ball. You'd remember being told by the police that they'd been high and scared of getting caught, so they hid, and got themselves crushed underneath the concrete rubble. You closed your eyes and sighed, shaking your head. You began to annotate the book, adding notes here and there about the plot, characters, story, symbolism. What would it be like? You wondered, if you didn't care about these things? A part of you did care about your parents, but a part of you didn't give a damn. It had been 2 years. You had just started college around the same time the monsters came to the surface. You looked out the window, watching the cool gray sky, snow starting to fall like teardrops. Why teardrops? You wondered. Why teardrops? Shaking your head, you went back to work, reading around 40 pages in the next hour. Your book was filled with notes by the time Frisk knocked on your door. Oh, thank God, you love to read, but still, sometimes you just needed a break from the heavy stuff your lit professor gave you. You reached the door and opened it. Frisk was giving you a rare smile. Why, Anne? Guess what? What? I got a date. Really? Oh, yeah, with that guy we've been texting for the last hour, and he invited me out. Oh, and I know you aren't that busy, so I was wondering if you could. You want me to drive you? You asked. Yeah. All right. Let me get ready, real quick. She yelled, rushing to the room, and putting on makeup. Now, you saw nothing wrong with makeup, but sometimes Frisk should have given her skin a break. That's what you were supposed to do when you wore makeup. Give your skin a break every few days. Why were you even thinking about that? Didn't you have to find the keys? Shaking your head, you went to the kitchen. That's where you usually put them, in that little cup with cat ears. Entering the kitchen, you turned on the light, looked in the cup, didn't find them. Rolling your eyes, you went and looked in your coat, and luckily, they were there, connected on a ring with your house keys. You walked to your room, put on your shoes, grabbed your phone and waited for Frisk. She came out 30 minutes later, which was kind of quick. She stopped in front of your open door, peeked in, and told you to come on. You rolled your eyes, went to the front door, put on your coat, and braced yourself against the cold. Once you opened the door, cold air blasted inwards, but you strode on anyway, Frisk following behind you. The two of you managed to get to her car. She gave you directions to a meeting place, which you drove her to, arriving in 15 minutes. Her date was waiting there, tall and handsome. He opened the car door for Frisk, and wrapped an arm around her waist, then closed the door. Geez, not even a thank you? You scowled as you watched them enter the fancy restaurant that you dropped Frisk off at. Why were you even friends with Frisk? Was it even worth it? Probably not. She didn't even care about you. But she did find you crying. You remembered, on the first night you met, you were singing a random poem. You remembered trying to comfort yourself. Hope is a thing with feathers. You remembered singing, curled up in an alleyway, living out of a suitcase that perches in the soul. Your voice was strained a bit, weary, tired. It seemed like a person who carried 2 heavy suitcases but somehow managed to walk. Frisk has been walking that spring night, her brown hair cut short, eyes covered in pale pink eyeshadow, that contrasted, yet blended in perfectly, with her yellow-tinted skin. Hey! She looked down the red-bricked alleyway at you hunched figure, as you froze. That you singing? You swallowed. Yeah. I know somebody who needs a singer like you. Who is it? You asked, voice wavering. Ever heard of Grilby? No. Frisk stared at you for a moment, her brown eyes harsh and distant, calculating. You need a job, huh? You took a deep breath, nostrils flaring. Yeah, I do. Then I got one for you. Come with me. You went, following her like a desperate, scrawny puppy might following a kind young boy. You were desperate, needed a home, food, and you were willing to do anything. So, you suffered through Grilby's harsh comments on your weight, and made a deal with the devil. You remembered exactly what Grilby said to you. Look, kid. Frisk has the looks, the charm, the personality, but you don't have anything but that voice. If I were you, I'd agree with the deal you sing backstage, little songbird, while she's out there, performing. It's not like you have many options, judging from those clothes of yours. You agreed, singing your name on the contract, pledging yourself to the shadows. Sighing, you started the car, deciding to drive home. The car sailed across the slightly frozen roads, almost crashing into another car as you pulled into the parking lot of your apartment complex. Your apartment was an okay place, not too fancy, not too poor. It was the best you could afford on your salary of $20 an hour. You only worked around 4 hours a day, so 20 hours a week. You made good money, at least as far as you knew. You still saved around 10% of your salary, and paid whatever you could into your college debt. Walking up the stairs, you shivered, and looked behind our shoulder as you reached the last step. Was someone watching you again? It wasn't that nice skeleton guy, was it? You hoped not. He seemed kind of nice, kind of. You shook your head, and went inside, closing the door behind you. You knew you should have been studying, but you needed a break when you entered college. It had been around a year since you graduated high school. You were proud that even though you took an unintentional gap year, because you'd been evicted from your apartment, due to funeral costs being too high, even though you cremated your mother and father, and threw away the ashes. What also got you was your school fines. Even though you decided not to walk the stage or go to any of the dances or special senior events, you still ended up owing the school money for unpaid classes, became homeless for said year, and almost died 4 or 6 times, and that somehow you managed to get here. It was all like a weird optimistic dream. You smiled, deciding to take a 30-minute study break, and got out your phone, watching dumb videos. It turned out, though, that feeling that you had of being watched was true. Big Papa had followed you as soon as you arrived at the restaurant, wanting to slap Frisk for not thanking you as he watched you drive off. He followed, driving his car slowly and pausing at unnecessary stops, just to make sure you got home safely. He parked in the parking lot, watching your huddled figure as you went upstairs, and just as he thought you were going in, you turned around, staring right at his car. His soul froze. He could see your eyes narrow as you scanned the horizon. Then, you reluctantly shrugged it off, giving one more glare to the outside world. You opened your door and went inside. He sunk into his seat, took off his hat, and covered his face. Shit, you were smarter than he thought. Shit, well, maybe not smart enough, he hoped. He didn't want you finding out about him and his habit. He had just met you a day ago, and already, he was enraptured, his soul going all crazy around you, skipping in between his ribs at the thought of you. He had never felt anything like this before, and he wanted to keep the feeling. He had always gone through life numb, cold and numb. Maybe, he thought, when he was younger, he had felt something, a little bit of joy and happiness before his father was killed. Ever since he saw him dusted by a monster without a face, he couldn't feel anything. Until you, little songbird. The little tiny songbird, with a soul as green as a seedling shining in the spring sunshine. He also saw that your soul was cracked, fucked up, just like his, a damaged vase that was barely holding itself together, and God, when he saw it, when he saw your soul encased in hopeful hands holding it together, he fell. Hard and deep, he couldn't help but fall. He gripped the steering wheel, and looked into the rearview mirror. His face was flushed scarlet, his pupils had dilated and shaped themselves into hearts. Shit. He leaned closer, his face contorting into confusion. He honestly didn't know his eyes did that till now, the whole heart thing. He always thought it was in his head. He slumped back into the seat, staring at himself in the mirror. Big Papa had never looked like this before, face flushed and eyes full of love. Oh sure, he loved Papyrus. In a way, but the kind of love they had wasn't out of respect, really, it was more out of need. His chest rose, his soul thumped like a rabbit on coke, and he started to shake. He never felt like this before. He never had a crush, or pined over someone like this. Shit, doll shit, did you see what you were doing to him? He put a hand to his chest, and closed his eyes, trying to calm down. It didn't work. He opened them again. His face was still red, his eyes still heart-shaped. He looked like one of those fucking Japanese cartoon characters. Shit, he felt like one of them. He looked down, his left hand rubbing circles above his right, a nervous habit. He didn't feel cold. He didn't feel like a frozen over field. Underneath a gray sky he felt the opposite. He felt like he was bursting, red flowers blooming in sunshine, young saplings sprouting, birds singing. Fuck, he was in love. He was honestly in love. He wanted that feeling to stay. Beautiful songbird, wouldn't you help him? Would you help him? Would you help him, the sharp-toothed skeleton, who had scars across his body? He looked in the mirror. Would you help him, sans the gangster who couldn't do anything right? Would you even care about him? Would you? He knew you would. He knew. You were the kind little songbird, and you were going to light up his world. He would take you out on a date, on multiple dates. He would get you to fall head over heels for him, just like he did with you. Then so many things would happen after that. He wished you knew that, little songbird. He wished you knew. He sighed, started up the car, driving out the parking lot. Frisk still owed him a favor, he thought. 3 years ago, he had saved her from the streets. 3 years ago, she pledged herself to the mob. 3 years ago, she said she'd do anything to pay him back. Then, if she'd do anything, he thought, she could set the two of you up. He looked at himself in the mirror once more, noticing for the first time in decades, he was smiling. He was smiling. All because of you, YN, all because of the little caged songbird. Then, he got another idea. Big Papa knew Frisk would do anything to pay him back, even though she called him an asshole, or cussed him out. Sometimes they still got along. He knew she would get him information on you, spy on you for him. She owed the mob a lot. Frisk practically owed the mob her life. He saved her from a life of begging on the streets, of prostitution. Now, she had a life full of clean clothes, warm food, flirting with whoever she wanted to, a life full of luxury. Sans took a turn, headed down a street, and pulled into his house, parking the car in the garage. He wondered where Papyrus was, since they had both gone out this morning, done a few jobs, ran a few errands, which consisted of killing 2 hits, investigating a pimp, and interrogating a mob boss. He had killed at least 2 people today. The last 2 wouldn't cooperate and give him the information he needed, so he let all hell break loose. Papyrus killed more though, around 6, at least as far as he knew. He killed the mob boss, 2 of his men, killed 1 of the hits, and also a few of the pimp's men. Papyrus was violent and could be vain sometimes, but he knew what he was doing. Sans was violent also, but not as quick as his brother. He preferred to torture his enemies slowly and watch with sadistic pleasure. He got out of the car, and entered through the garage to the hideout. He had work to do. He had work to do. How would he get you? What did you like? What was that song you were singing on the first night he met you? Why'd you sing such a sad song anyway? Why was your soul broken just like his? He remembered seeing your soul on the first night you two met, when you were standing beside his window, your soft arms wrapped around your frame, trying to protect yourself from the cold. You had looked so soft then, and your soul shone out, reaching towards him with tendrils of warmth. You thanked him. You thanked him of all monsters. You'd been a little afraid, nervous, as you stumbled out a thank you, but your soul seemed to relax by the time you were finished. Honestly, he found your awkwardness adorable. He found you adorable, and beautiful and sweet, like cherry pie. He went upstairs, entered his room and sat down at his desk. Big Papa took a pen, and made a list. Get Frisk to spy on Songbird. Get information on Songbird. Ask Songbird on a date. Date Songbird. Make Songbird mine. It wouldn't be that hard, he thought, to get you to be his. All he had to do was be sweet. He wouldn't mind being nice to you, he thought. How could he not be nice to you? You were adorable, kind, and he wanted to know more about you. He added one more thing on the list. Find out more about Songbird, by myself. He smiled, maybe that was a bit repetitive. He put down the pen, and stared at his hands. He had to keep this feeling in his chest. He felt like he was on fire, an explosion of fireworks, a soft mess of crooked love notes. Big Papa was obsessed, he knew, and like all obsessions, this one was dangerous. But he wouldn't hurt you, no, you are his Songbird, his one and only Songbird.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video/gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!